At an outdoor repair site, an individual works underneath the raised bed of a dump truck, which is supported only by its hydraulic system. Suddenly, the hydraulic pressure is lost and the structure gives way, lowering rapidly. Never work under a load supported solely by hydraulic or pneumatic pressure. Always use certified mechanical supports or locking bars to secure the equipment physically. 2 sanitation employees work at the rear of their stationary vehicle. A small truck in the adjacent lane begins to reverse without a clear view of the area directly behind it. The reversing vehicle makes contact with one of the workers. This emphasizes the need for high visibility vests and the importance for all drivers to be aware of their blind spots, especially in areas with pedestrians. In a narrow industrial driveway, a worker stands directly in the blind spot behind a large truck. As the truck starts reversing, the movement leads to a loss of balance for the person behind it. This is a near miss that reinforces a key safety principle. Always make positive visual contact with an equipment operator before entering their path of travel. At a shipping container terminal, a pedestrian walks across the active yard. Simultaneously, the operator of a large forklift begins to execute a turn. The vehicle's path intersects with the pedestrian, leading to an unexpected event. Using designated pedestrian walkways and being aware of the large blind spots around heavy machinery are crucial for safety in such environments. Inside a large industrial facility, a worker attempts to clear a material jam from a powerful roller machine while it is still operating. The moving material suddenly pulls the worker toward the rollers, creating a severe entanglement situation. This lengthy incident is a stark reminder that machinery must be completely stopped and de-energized using lockout-tagout procedures before any attempt is made to clear a jam or perform maintenance. A truck loaded with loose, heavy produce is parked on a narrow, sloped street. The structural integrity of the truck's side gate fails, causing the entire load to suddenly spill out and roll down the alley where people are walking. Regular vehicle maintenance and pre-trip inspections to confirm that all doors, gates, and latches are secure are essential for preventing cargo spills. In a metal foundry, workers are managing material in a large industrial vessel. An uncontrolled element is introduced, triggering a sudden and powerful thermal reaction. A large volume of superheated material is ejected from the container. Working with molten materials requires strict process control and specialized personal protective equipment to mitigate the risks of such unexpected events. Inside a mattress factory, a worker positions foam on a compression machine. Without warning, the massive upper press assembly detaches and crashes down, striking the worker. This indicates a catastrophic mechanical failure, likely due to improper maintenance, metal fatigue, or failed safety systems. Critical equipment like presses requires rigorous, scheduled inspections and preventive maintenance to identify and repair worn components before they can fail. Looking down into a large industrial shaft, several workers stand on a makeshift wooden platform. Suddenly, the planks give way, and the entire platform disintegrates, causing the workers to plummet into the darkness below. This tragedy was caused by improperly constructed scaffolding. Temporary work platforms at height must be engineered to bear the required load, properly secured, and inspected for stability before any work begins. A highway maintenance worker stands between 2 DOT trucks parked on the shoulder. In a shocking instant, a speeding semi-truck plows directly into the rear DOT truck. The buffer vehicle is completely destroyed, but it absorbs the deadly impact. This vividly illustrates the critical importance of truck-mounted attenuators in protecting roadside work zones from inattentive drivers. A man walks through a factory aisle, pouring a flammable liquid on the floor. The liquid instantly ignites, creating a wall of fire that travels down the aisle. The arsonist, now trapped, panics and tries to beat out the flames. This is a deliberate criminal act that endangers everyone. Workplaces must have strict controls over flammable materials, as well as robust fire suppression systems to handle such events, whether accidental or intentional. In an auto shop, two mechanics work on a massive truck tire. Without warning, the tire explodes with incredible force, throwing one of the men violently across the garage. This is likely a zipper failure explosion. Overinflating a tire or failing to inspect it for damage can cause a catastrophic rupture. Using a safety cage during inflation is a mandatory safety measure. In a steel warehouse, a worker stands directly underneath a massive coil of sheet metal being moved by an overhead crane. Suddenly, the clamp holding the multi-ton roll fails, and the coil drops, instantly crushing the man below. This is an absolute violation of the most basic overhead lifting rule. Never, under any circumstances, position yourself under a suspended load. Safe zones must be clearly established and enforced. At an excavation site, several workers are standing perilously close to the edge of a deep pit, while an excavator works above them. The operator swings the bucket, either misjudging the distance or not seeing the worker below, and knocks one man directly into the excavation. This highlights a severe lack of communication and site control. Workers on foot should never be in the swing radius of heavy equipment, and operators must ensure their path is clear before moving. In a heavy manufacturing plant, workers are gathered around a massive engine assembly being lifted by an overhead crane. The rigging suddenly gives way, and the entire multi-ton apparatus crashes to the floor, shattering on impact and narrowly missing several people. The incident was caused by a catastrophic rigging failure. All lifting equipment, including slings and shackles, must be inspected before each use and rated for a weight far exceeding the load. A crane operator lowers a large bundle of sacks into an open pit in a factory floor. A female worker stands on the edge to guide the load. As the heavy bundle swings, its momentum pushes her off balance, and she falls backward into the hole. Workers should never use their bodies to directly guide a suspended load. Taglines should always be used to control the load from a safe distance, away from fall hazards. Two technicians are working on a large CNC machine. As one of them leans in and touches a component, he receives a severe electrical shock, causing him to convulse and collapse. This points to either damaged wiring or a failure to properly de-energize and lock out the machine before beginning service work. Inside what appears to be a paper recycling facility, a worker is manually pushing material into the opening of a large industrial pulper. He leans too far over the unguarded opening, loses his footing, and is instantly pulled into the powerful machine. A large plume of dust and steam erupts from the machine. This tragedy was entirely preventable. The machine's feed opening must have been equipped with proper guarding and a feed system, like a conveyor belt, to eliminate the need for any worker to be near the point of operation. A worker wearing a hard hat walks backward into the path of a reversing cement mixer truck. The driver, likely unable to see him in the blind spot, continues to back up, striking the man and knocking him to the ground. All large vehicles must be equipped with backup alarms, and drivers should use a spotter when reversing in areas with pedestrian traffic. Pedestrians, in turn, must remain aware of their surroundings. A worker enters the safety enclosure of a large industrial robotic arm while it is still operational. The robot activates, moving swiftly along its programmed path, and pins the man against a stationary part of the cell. Safety interlocks on gates are designed to prevent this. They must never be bypassed. In a garage, Two mechanics are working on a large, inflated truck tire that is not in a safety cage. The tire suddenly explodes with catastrophic force, throwing both men across the workshop. Inflating large tires must always be done within a reinforced safety cage to contain the explosive energy in case of a blowout. A worker stands next to a flatbed trailer heavily loaded with stacked steel I-beams. The load, which is not properly secured, suddenly shifts and slides off the side of the trailer, burying the man underneath. All heavy loads must be secured with appropriate chains or straps to prevent any movement during transport or unloading. A forklift carrying a wide metal sheet is positioned partially on a public road as a scooter approaches. Due to the load obstructing the view and path, an unexpected situation occurs as the scooter's path intersects with the carried material. This highlights the critical importance of traffic management when work zones extend into public areas. Using spotters, clear signage, and securing the area helps ensure visibility for both equipment operators and the public, preventing unforeseen incidents. Inside a fenced-off automated work cell, a robotic arm is active on a production line while a worker is present inside the enclosure. The robotic arm, following its programmed path, makes a sudden movement, leading to an unexpected interaction with the individual inside the safety perimeter. This incident underscores the necessity of strict lockout-tagout procedures. Automated equipment must be completely powered down and de-energized before any personnel enter a guarded area for maintenance, adjustments, or cleaning. In a loading yard at night, a forklift operator is loading pallets onto a large truck while a pedestrian walks nearby. As the forklift maneuvers a pallet, its movement creates a hazardous situation where the pedestrian is positioned between the equipment and the truck. Maintaining clear and constant communication between forklift operators and pedestrians is vital. Establishing designated safe zones for drivers and using high-visibility clothing can significantly reduce the risk of such close-quarters incidents. Two workers are near a large industrial press. One worker leans into the machine's operational area to perform a task. While the worker is partially inside the equipment, a sudden mechanical issue appears, causing the press to cycle unexpectedly. Never place any part of your body into machinery that is not properly locked and tagged out. This preventative measure is essential to ensure equipment cannot activate during maintenance or manual adjustments, safeguarding personnel from unexpected machine movement. A forklift operator begins to raise the forks. At that exact moment, a scooter carrying two people drives directly into their path, colliding hard with the rising steel forks. This incident highlights the chaos of a poorly managed work zone. There is a severe lack of situational awareness from both the scooter driver and the forklift operator. Industrial yards require clear, designated pathways for vehicles and pedestrians, good lighting, and for all personnel to remain alert. In a poorly lit workshop, two men are working on the floor near what appears to be a compressed gas cylinder. Suddenly, it explodes in a massive fireball. Gas cylinders are potential bombs if mishandled. They must always be stored upright, secured from falling, and inspected for damage before use. A man operates a large industrial lathe, leaning over the rapidly spinning chuck. His loose jacket sleeve gets snagged, and he is instantly and violently pulled into the machine, spinning at a terrifying speed before a coworker hits the emergency stop. This is a classic entanglement accident. The number one rule when working with rotating machinery is absolutely no loose clothing, untied long hair, or jewelry. These items can be grabbed in a fraction of a second. Additionally, a chuck shield could have prevented this contact. At a gas station next to a busy roundabout, a chaotic car accident occurs. One of the involved cars rolls backward, out of control, directly into the station forecourt, striking an unsuspecting attendant sitting in a chair. This incident underscores the risk of working near live traffic. Protective barriers, like bollards, are essential to shield work areas from errant vehicles. In a busy warehouse, a worker pushing a manual pallet jack enters an aisle. From the opposite direction, a forklift operator turns the corner, their attention focused elsewhere. The operator fails to see the pedestrian directly in their path and collides with them, knocking the person to the floor. This incident underscores the danger of blind corners. Convex mirrors, audible alarms on vehicles, and strictly enforced pedestrian walkways are vital for preventing such collisions. At a building facade, two men are working on a multi-level rolling scaffold. One worker is positioned on the top platform, attending to his tasks, while his partner is on the ground below. The worker at the base decides to reposition the scaffold. Instead of ensuring his colleague descends first, he begins to push the entire tall structure along the uneven sidewalk. The scaffold immediately becomes unstable, rocking back and forth precariously. He continues to push until the structure's center of gravity shifts too far, causing it to topple over completely. It crashes down with immense force, throwing the worker from the top platform onto the hard pavement below. This incident is a catastrophic failure of fundamental safety rules. Scaffolding must always be erected on solid, level ground and must never, under any circumstances, be moved while workers are on it. This dangerous shortcut resulted in a severe and easily avoidable accident. Inside a fenced-off automated work cell, a worker stands dangerously close to an active robotic arm. The large robot, programmed to move components, makes a sudden, swift movement toward the man. It mistakes the worker for a part, grabbing him by the head and violently slamming him into a stack of materials. This is precisely why safety cages and light curtains exist. No worker should ever enter the operational envelope of a robot without engaging full lockout-tagout procedures. In a nighttime loading bay, a truck driver stands near the back of his trailer as a forklift approaches with a pallet. The forklift operator, seemingly unaware of the driver's presence, drives forward without slowing down. The operator pins the driver between the powerful machine and the trailer, crushing him instantly. This devastating incident highlights the absolute need for clear communication and situational awareness. Forklift operators must always establish eye contact with pedestrians in their vicinity, and ground personnel should never place themselves in a potential crush zone. A mechanic crouches directly over a large truck tire while inflating it. Without any warning, the tire's structural integrity fails, resulting in a massive explosion. The sheer force of the blast launches the mechanic violently into the air. When inflating high-pressure tires, always use a safety inflation cage and a clip-on chuck with a long hose to maintain a safe distance. At a busy port, workers are loading a flatbed truck near the water's edge. A forklift operator, after placing a load, suddenly accelerates forward at high speed instead of reversing. The machine plunges off the pier, landing directly on a worker standing below and pushing him into the water. This appears to be a tragic case of pedal misapplication. In complex environments, operators must remain hyper-vigilant. Maintaining clear safety zones for pedestrians is essential to provide an escape route in case of operator error. In a factory setting, a worker operates a large rolling press. He reaches over the active machine, likely to clear a jam or adjust the material being fed into it. His arm gets caught in the powerful intake rollers, and in a horrific instant, he is pulled completely into the machine. This demonstrates the absolute necessity of proper machine guarding. All moving parts and pinch points must be covered. For any adjustments or maintenance, a complete lockout-tagout procedure must be performed to de-energize the equipment. In a mining tunnel, a worker pushes a heavy cart toward an elevator shaft. He opens the protective gate and, without verifying that the elevator car is actually there, pushes the cart into the void. He and the cart plummet down the open shaft. Safety interlocks that prevent gates from opening unless the elevator is present are critical. This tragic assumption highlights the rule to always look and confirm before you proceed. A person walks down a narrow alleyway between warehouse buildings. Behind them, a forklift carrying a load that obstructs the operator's forward view is traveling in the same direction. The operator, unable to see the pedestrian, continues forward and runs the person over. This is a primary rule of forklift safety. If your forward view is blocked by a load, you must travel in reverse. Using a horn at intersections and having designated pedestrian paths are also crucial measures to prevent this type of accident. At a lumber yard, a forklift operator attempts to lift a tall, heavy, and unstable stack of wooden panels. As the forks rise, the machine's center of gravity shifts forward, causing it to become dangerously unbalanced. The entire forklift tips forward, sending the massive load crashing down onto a nearby worker who is instantly pinned beneath the immense weight. This fatal error was caused by exceeding the forklift's rated load capacity. Operators must be trained to read and understand their vehicle's load chart and never attempt to lift a load that is too heavy or unstable. In a scrap metal recycling plant, a worker climbs into a massive baling press to clear a jam, placing himself in an extremely dangerous position. While he is inside, an excavator operator working nearby drops a load of scrap, startling the man. As he tries to get out, the press unexpectedly begins its compression cycle. The powerful hydraulic ram activates, trapping and crushing the man inside the machine before he can escape. This is a horrifying failure of lockout, tag-out procedures. Before any worker enters a machine for maintenance, all energy sources must be completely shut off and locked to prevent accidental activation. This procedure would have saved his life. A brightly lit beauty salon, clients are receiving treatments while an employee works at a shelf. The calm is shattered in an instant as a large truck, having lost control on the street outside, smashes through the glass storefront. The vehicle plows deep into the salon, sending debris flying and narrowly missing the terrified occupants who scramble for safety. This shocking incident is a reminder that even indoor spaces can be vulnerable to external traffic hazards, especially those located at street level. In a cluttered workshop, a man works near a large machine with an exposed, rapidly rotating flywheel. He's wearing a loose, untucked shirt, a critical mistake around this type of equipment. As he moves past the machine, the back of his shirt is snagged by the flywheel. He is instantly whipped around with incredible violence, spinning in the air as the machine wraps his clothing tighter and tighter around the axle. His co-workers rush in a panic to shut off the power, but the momentum continues to spin him violently. This is a textbook example of why loose clothing is forbidden around rotating machinery. It can be grabbed in an instant, leading to horrific injuries or death. All flywheels and drive shafts must be properly guarded. This onboard footage from a city bus captures the driver navigating through traffic. A passenger stands near the front, talking on the phone. Without warning, a vehicle from the oncoming lane swerves directly into the bus's path, resulting in a devastating head-on collision. The impact is catastrophic, shattering the windshield and sending the passenger flying violently forward. The aftermath shows the complete destruction of the bus's front end. This is a brutal reminder of the immense forces involved in high-speed collisions and the importance of defensive driving and constant vigilance on the road. At a construction site, several workers are standing on top of a newly constructed, unbraced masonry wall. A powerful gust of wind suddenly hits the tall, unstable structure. The wall acts like a sail, and it cannot withstand the lateral force. The entire section collapses, sending the workers plummeting several stories to the ground below, amidst a cascade of bricks and scaffolding. This is a tragic failure in construction sequencing. Tall, thin walls must be properly braced against lateral forces like wind until the full structure is completed and can provide support. Two men are attempting to move a large, top-heavy commercial refrigerator or vending machine. They are using an improper method, trying to slide and pivot it by hand without proper equipment like a dolly or pallet jack. As they maneuver the appliance, its high center of gravity causes it to become unstable. It begins to tip over, and one of the men is unable to get out of the way. The incredibly heavy machine falls directly on top of him, crushing him against the floor. Moving heavy and tall objects requires careful planning and the use of appropriate mechanical aids to prevent them from tipping over. During nighttime road construction, a worker in a high-visibility vest walks near a large wheeled excavator. The operator begins to swing the machine's cab to reposition it. The worker is standing in the excavator's massive blind spot. As the cab rotates, the heavy counterweight swings around and pins the unsuspecting man against a stack of concrete barriers, crushing him. Swing radius accidents are a common and deadly hazard. Ground personnel must never enter the swing radius of an excavator without first getting confirmation from the operator that they have been seen. Inside a workshop, two men are performing maintenance on a large industrial machine. They are positioned directly underneath a heavy, suspended component of the apparatus. It appears the component was either improperly supported or the lifting mechanism failed. Suddenly, the entire assembly gives way and collapses downwards, crushing both workers beneath its immense weight. This is a fatal violation of a primary safety rule. Never work under a suspended load. Heavy components must be physically secured with certified blocks or safety stands before any personnel are allowed to work underneath them. In a chaotic street intersection, a pedestrian begins to cross the road. At the same time, a wheeled excavator makes a turn, its operator's view obstructed. The operator does not see the pedestrian, and the front of the heavy machine strikes her, knocking her to the ground. Continuing its turn, the operator, still unaware of the collision, drives directly over her. Heavy equipment operating in public spaces poses an immense risk.